Hey guys, this is Kevin Tetz, and you're listening to the Builder Sessions.
Welcome to the Builder Sessions, a podcast where we chat with your favorite builders.
We get to know them, their stories, and hopefully inspire you to get off the couch and build something cool. I'm Hoff.
And I'm Rosie.
And on this episode, we have one of the OGs of PowerBlock, creator of Paintucation, an automotive journalist, and certified Autobody repair technician, Kevin Tetz.
We talk about everything from starting out in humility and staying hungry to developing a work ethic in order to become the most successful version of yourself. We even talk about some of the practical tips to get started and making sure you spend your money wisely on quality tools.
Please enjoy our interview with Kevin.
Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
This is awesome. We're just going to fangirl for a couple minutes, if you don't mind.
Sitting in my socks shaking here.
Yeah.
Dream Builder we used to watch on TV every Saturday mornings.
It's weird. Hopefully that never meet your heroes thing doesn't come true today.
No, I don't believe in that. I just think it's neat when we can meet the right heroes, and so humbling and awesome to be considered that with you guys. So thanks for having me on, man. And cool. I'm so happy to contribute. And knowing a little bit about your background, it's quite timely at this point in my life as I'm transitioning into being more of a teacher and all that type of stuff. So yeah, so thanks, man. This is awesome.
So for those of our listeners who have been living under a rock for a number of years.
Since the late 90s.
Yeah, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you're up to?
Yes, I will. So Kevin Tetz, I was born in Canada. I was born in Lloydminster, Alberta, moved over to BC, grew up in British Columbia, and I couldn't wait to get the heck out. And it wasn't anything to do with Canada or BC or anything like that, but I wanted to get away from the small town that I grew up in. And that's just an angst that I had. And, I'm an automotive guy and I was a music guy. So I won't go far down into this rabbit hole, but what took me out of Canada was a career in music. And it got to the point to where I was pretty good at the game. I had moved down to the States, and then I had this massive failure. I was a singer and I had a vocal incident. I couldn't sing anymore. So I had to pivot. And it taught me humility, and it taught me that, interestingly, that I could rely on myself and what I grew up in, which was automotive. And my dad's a body guy. I kind of grew up around a little bit of that. We were dirt poor, and I had to make a car when I wanted a car because I couldn't buy a car. So those types of things I learned through osmosis. And when it came time for the giant reset button and a second career, I was married at the time. And, let's face it, you got to bring it home. My wife is an entrepreneur, had a small business that was very successful, and I had to keep up, and I had to contribute my part to our household. So here we are. We go to Automotive, and I had enough skill to get in the door. I talked somebody into hiring me in Pulaski, Tennessee, which is about an hour south of Nashville. And I had long black hair with a purple streak in the side and Capezio shoes and skinny jeans, and I did not fit. But this guy gave me a chance and hired me as a shop helper. From there, I grew up literally, but I came up in my skills and I wanted to become better. So I took every certification class. I listened to when people mentored me. I took chances. I practiced. I wanted to be the best paint and body guy that I could possibly be because I was 30 years old coming into the game. I wasn't 19 coming out of a trade school or high school into the field. I had friends that did that, and they're way farther ahead of me. But I knew that I had some catching up to do. So I really poured myself into the industry, and I had a good solid career. I became a really good painter. I was headhunted because it mattered to me to be a great technician. And I learned as much as I possibly could, and I worked my way up, and I ended up managing other people's shops. I owned my own restoration shop. I failed miserably at that business and learned a lot about that through my failure. And I was headhunted by State Farm Insurance to be a claims adjuster, and I'm so glad I never took that job. But it immersed me into that world as well. So I got cross-trained inadvertently through that. And because I had a performance career at some point, I played all over Lethbridge. We talk about Lethbridge. There was this club on the main drag of Lethbridge that played, and Calgary clubs and Medicine Hat and all those towns, all the worst bars in Western Canada. I've been there, pal. Yes, it was fantastic. We didn't need a smoke machine back when I was in the game, because everybody smoked and the cigarettes gave this awesome ambiance to our lake show. Anyway.
And that's how those rockers' voices got so raspy naturally.
That's right? Exactly it. It was secondhand smoke, man. But anyway, the long story longer. You never lose that feeling of that adrenaline. You know, when we get excited, when we have this modicum of fear that excites us, when you learn how to harness that and treat it as adrenaline, and use that adrenaline in a positive manner instead of fight or flight, you run towards it. And that's what being a musician teaches you. You never lose the want for that adrenaline. And, you know, not to get too philosophical or scientific, but I was, you know, kind of just still wanting a performance career. I feel I failed at music, and I really enjoyed my tenure in that industry and the performance aspect of it, not from an egotistical level, but from the being in the moment level, and the experience that it gave to me. So my version of a performance career was made. I started a company in 1999 called Paintucation. It's a company that I still have to this day, instructional videos. And I knew I wasn't the best teacher. I knew I wasn't the best painter. I was a good, solid technician with a technical background. And there was a void in the industry for fundamental technical information. So I started my video company. I knew nothing about video production, but I knew that I was a good technician, and I knew that I was unafraid of a camera, because I'd crossed that threshold, and I could do an okay performance in front of the camera and explain what I needed to explain. And I ended up getting distributors over time, and being able to be a reseller with Paintucation, and then all the other stuff came alongside that. Advertising the company. I couldn't afford advertisements, so I made barter deals with magazines and wrote them articles for free in exchange for vertical thirds and half-page ads in the magazine. So that got me advertisement that I couldn't afford.
Smart move. Smart move.
It turned out to be a smart move, but it was a move out of desperation.
Yeah, it was the only move at that point, probably.
Well, for sure. And you know, when we're freaking out, sometimes the best and worst decisions come out of us.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that worked, that helped. And it was the burgeoning days of the internet. And I had a message board. I would go on to the other message boards and forums, advertise my company by saying, hey, you know, you're having a solvent trapping issue, or you got delaminating paint. Here's how to fix that. And walk them through the process of fixing it and say, by the way, I've got videos that can help you with this. So I would lead with integrity, and then on the back end say, here's my video. So the moderators loved me because I was a good partner to them, giving technical support and help. I started my own forum, and that was great advertisement, because by then I was getting a good reputation on all the other forums and all that kind of. So that was kind of a grassroots thing. Keep in mind, I'm working full-time in Collision the whole time. My wife has a full-time business the whole time. We had no time. I didn't have any hobbies. I still don't have any hobbies. I am my hobby. Paintucation, restoring cars is my hobby. So, but I was invigorated by the growth of this company again. And it gave me that fire in my belly again, that a part of it anyways, that I got from the music business. So it inspired me to keep going and keep pushing. And the TV thing came along almost by accident. The Eastwood Company was, and of course, this is the minute and a half introduction that I was supposed to give, right? So shut me down if I'm just incessantly babbling, right?
Take as much time as you want.
The floor is yours.
Well, the interesting thing that happened was that Eastwood was my very first distributor. And instead of selling onesie twosies at car shows, Okay, so here's a mental picture. Everybody has, okay, I'm holding up my phone for those of you guys that can't see. This is my TV now. This is my studio now. It's my recorder now. It's voice notes. It's all those things. When I started marketing Paintucation, there was none of that. So here's what I would do. I had a 67 Ranchero, and I had an old CRT TV with a VHS in the bottom of it, right?
Yeah, you did.
And I would take an inverter, clamp it to the battery in my car. There was a 110 inverter, and I would plug my TV in on the hood of the car, play my videos, and stand there with the sign and say, hey, have you ever wanted to? I would literally do the dog and pony pitch with the ShamWow microphone, say, hey, I can help you with this. If you want to paint I would go to car shows and set up on the hood of my car with a VHS tape running off the car battery. And that's how I would do promotions. That's when I started this game. Technology has changed so freaking much since then, but it's what I had to do. And I didn't know if I was ever going to achieve any type of success, but I knew I had to get it out there, and I could not afford to buy magazine advertisements. I couldn't afford television. So that's a ground floor vision or version of what I was facing and how I was trying to promote the company. So Eastwood is now a big reseller of my videos. We ended up with about 12 resellers with Paintucation by the time it was all over with. We've still got several to this day. People still buy our DVDs, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But I was talking with one of the buyers at Eastwood, and I said, you know, I want to do one of these TV shows like the truck show that Stacy David does, or My Classic Car with Dennis Gage, and I don't know how to get into that industry. And the guy said, well, I know Stacy, we contribute products to his show. Let me ping him and see if I can get you guys in contact together. So I waited, and John Sloan came back with me, said, yeah, Stacy wants to talk to you. And he, you know, because we were in the same area. Yeah. Stacy was north of Nashville and Madison, and I was south of Nashville in Lawrenceburg at the time.
That's cool.
So it was kismet. It was this really interesting thing that happened. Longer story short, got in touch with Stacy, was a super nice guy. And I finally got up the gumption to ask him, can you put me on your show? I want to talk about my videos. And he said, no. But what I can do is this. I've got some projects coming up that need paint work on them. If you can work out a deal with me to where you can give me paint jobs, I can't pay you. We don't have a budget for that. But what I can do is talk about your video company when we do the payoff of the show.
Brilliant.
Let that sink in for a second. Yeah. I've been starving for a way literally starving for a way to get my products advertised. Now, because I had the courage to ask this guy if he could help me, he helped me.
Yeah.
He found a way. There was this mutual exchange of I would give him my energy and my expertise and give him projects that he could put on his television show. Yeah. And he would talk about my little rinky-dink video company on his show. And that happened. And that brought me into a world of exposure. It taught me the power of television. Because let me tell you, that Saturday morning when Stacy said, hey, you want a paint job like this? Talk to Kevin. You can get his videos at Eastwood. The floodgates opened. That taught me the power of television and mass media. And it was enlightening and an epiphany that happened. It's like, okay, I got to have more of this. I got to figure out a way to get in front of these audiences. So the interesting thing is that I had family members. I had people that I worked with. I had friends, not my wife, because she's been my supporter and my partner ever since Jump. Yep. But because she understood what I was trying to do. But everybody else said, you're crazy. You're giving away your talent. You're not charging him. You're crazy. He's taken advantage of you. And it was the farthest thing from the truth. Yeah. And I felt it in my gut that it was the right thing to do. And even if it wasn't, it was worth a shot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, just because people say, hey, you're stupid for doing that, you're getting taken advantage of. If it feels right in your gut, and if you know that it's going to propel you forward, or even the hope of it propelling you forward, do it. Be fearless. Those are the things, those are the lessons that I've been taught the most in my life, that crossing that threshold of being anxious about something to where you don't want to do it, but just going forward anyways. Those are the things that have given me the most growth and that I have learned from the most in my life. And that was one of those moments. Taught me the power of television, taught me the power of a mutually beneficial arrangement, which has served me to this day.
Yeah.
And it forever made me grateful for Stacy David in doing that type of thing for the truck show. And who knew, full circle moment, that I would end up taking his place when he left to form his own production company. And I was hired to fill his slot. That's a whole other story. We can talk about TV down the road and how I ended up in that position. But it also opened the door for me to that production company, to other production companies. And from there, I ended up, because Eastwood was also a contributor for products on the DIY network. I had a walk-on guest appearance. They liked the way I spoke. I was an educated guest. And when they were casting for a new show, I was in the running for that. Wow. And I made the audition. There was no gifts. There was nobody granted me. Nobody took the magic wand and said, here, now you're on TV.
Yeah.
I had to go through the process, even with the truck show. I had to go through the process of the audition phase and then the interview phase. And then it's down to you and this other guy. Why should we hire you phase and all those type of stuff. So I had to advocate and lobby for myself the whole time with all of these positions. So I'm confident to say that I earned my way into these jobs because I was qualified and ultimately it comes down to whether you're an easy person to work with or whether you're a difficult person to work with.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I ended up getting into the television industry, and it was just an extension of my little rinky-dink video company.
Yeah.
And I kept the company going the whole time. Of course, I quit the collision job when I started doing television, but I kept Paintucation going the whole time. And Paintucation was the whole reason that I wanted to be on television. It wasn't to be on TV. It wasn't to be famous. That's a side effect of that. Yeah. I'm a known person. People know of me. You guys are reminding me of that and the reach of television and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But the reason that I wanted to be in television and be exposed and visible in the first place was to bring the attention back to my training products, my Paintucation videos, the technical articles that I write. And these days, Paintucation University, which is my digital trade school that I hope we get a chance to talk about. And so that's been my focus and my drive. Once I figured out that I could help people, once I figured out years and years ago that I could pass on some skills that would empower somebody and that light bulb would go off, that was more powerful to me than a standing ovation at a rock show. It was more powerful to me than getting recognized at a car show. It was more powerful to me to empower somebody and to bring skill into their life, or at least the inspiration for them to learn. And that is what really, at the core, that drives me. And that's what I wake up to every day, is saying, how can I do this better? How can I reach more people? How can we turn this skilled trades deficit around and inspire and remind people that there is an unbelievable career path that they can have based off of a solid foundation in skilled trades, right? So that's kind of me in a 12-minute nutshell, and that's what makes me tick, man.
No, there's so much to unpack there. Thank you for sharing that. Because because there's so many great things to talk about. First of all, having the humility to ask for help. And not feeling owed anything. I think there's a big entitlement crisis right now with a lot of people.
Wow.
A lot of young people coming in too, and they think that there's a lot of people who think they're owed things, and there's a lot of people who, and maybe social media. We'll talk about the great benefits of social media, but that might be a detriment because when kids click on there I sound like I'm 85. When kids
dial up internet?
Yeah, when kids log on, when they enter their password and log on and their 56K modem starts screeching, but all they see is the snapshot of today and right now, and they think, okay, well, that's just how they don't see the years and years of work and grinding that you had to do to get to that point. And the second thing that I wanted to talk about is, I just want to applaud your big picture. You're sticking with that big picture, and all the critics in your life that said you were crazy, they were looking at that snapshot again, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't look at the big picture of the whole old adage of you have to spend money to make money, and you were seeing your value and your time as value and money, and so you're sitting there going, I mean, I just have to do something that I love and it's going to reach millions of people on a Saturday morning. Like, that's worth way more, and you'd have to probably pay way more than you would have gotten paid for that job. Right. And so you saw the value of that big picture and stepped back, and you just went for it. And that's really cool.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate the recognition of that. And when we're in the moment, it's really hard to see from 30,000 feet, right? The cable television industry, when you're a quote unquote talent, which is what we were referred to in the whole production hierarchy, when you're talent, you're not necessarily the highest paid member of that hierarchy. It's not great money. Network television, Friends, Blackish, those people, those artists, those actors, they get paid a ridiculous amount of money, and it's all based on exposure and their talent. And I'm not shaming them or anything like that. But cable TV doesn't pay very well. And I was on a salary. When I first did TV, I was getting paid per show as a freelance contractor. And honestly, it barely paid my travel. I knew the value of the exposure. And when I was working at RTM Productions for the truck show, we got paid okay, but not for 100-hour week. Okay. If I put a 100-hour week in the body shop doing flat rate, pal, you guys know.
You're making bank.
If I could turn 225 hours as a technician in an 80-hour work week, yes. And I do that time and time again. The last collision shop I worked at, we had 2 booths. I had 2 helpers. I was tinting and spraying. That's what I was doing. I paid my helpers very well, and I made a really good living doing that. And that's what I need. My mission is to pass that information on to people just coming into the industry. That said, when you think about TV, you think about, oh, he's making all the money and this and that, and you can fly there. No, that ain't the case. You have to do it for the right reasons. I've seen people come into television for the egotistical spin of it, wanting to be famous and wanting to be the guy that people want to sign a piece of paper or talk about that. And that was never my motivation. It's a side effect. It's a nice benefit. It humbles me. I owe people that watch me on television my career. I owe them, if they want a conversation, I'll sit and talk to them for hours. It doesn't matter to me. That's one of the things to where I will be eternally grateful for the people that watched my shows and watched everything that I did, and still to this day follow me. And those are the people that are going to help me promote my message of empowerment and education these days, as my goals have evolved into the fine tip of the spear. So TV is not a dream job. It's a very, very hard job to do. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that it's not what it looks like from the outside, right? That was kind of just the point that I wanted to make.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even in watching, I watch a lot of YouTube, probably not to my detriment, but
hey, no, YouTube's the new TV, buddy. And people don't realize that YouTube is the world's second largest search engine that is owned by the world's first largest search engine, Google.
Exactly. And even those YouTubers who talk about like how they got there, every single one of them say, if you're in it to get famous and for the money, don't even start.
Yeah.
And the fact that, because people connect with authenticity, and the fact that you're there, your number one is to help people. That's why things have happened for you, because you connect with people. Right.
Wow,
that's really cool.
Thank you. Well, I grew up liking people. I got that from my mom. My mom's a people person. She's never seen a bad day in her life, and always had something friendly to say to strangers. And even though with people that she had animosity with, her favorite phrase was "kill them with kindness." And that has been my mantra. Not kill them with kindness, because kill has a whole other connotation. But that spirit of goodwill was planted into me, and I'm grateful for that as well. But you got to like people. It's a people business, and you have to appreciate interaction. And that's one of the reasons I like social media. There's a lot of reasons not to, but social media is an interesting place to coexist with the silos that we create in there of our societies.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a really interesting point at the beginning of your about me section, and taking risk, right? I got to take a risk here. And I think there's a lot of people that are afraid to take risks and afraid to fail, and you're going to get thrown down and kicked and punched, and you got to get back up and keep going. And you just a testament to risk, take a risk, and there might be payoff, there might be not, and you have to learn from those too.
Failure is where we grow.
Yes.
People are afraid of failure. People are afraid of that pain. But you know what? The difference between pain and suffering, pain is inevitable. Pain is going to happen. Pain is stretching past our comfort zone. Suffering is reliving that pain over and over and over again. So we don't have to suffer, but by God, you got to run screaming towards pain. And I don't mean be reckless, and I mean that in a philosophical way.
Yeah.
We have to get out of our own way. If life was cushy, if the best part of life was being on the couch watching our favorite TV show, man, we'd all have it made, right?
Yeah.
But the best part of life is getting past where we're comfortable. That's where we grow. That's where fulfillment comes from. That's where our soul is fed, and that's where we find our place in society and frankly in the universe, is by getting past what we know and embracing learning, embracing being uncomfortable. And maybe music taught me that, because I was a shy kid. I grew up and I was introverted, and I had ulcers when I was 12 years old. It was because of personal dynamics and family stuff.
Wow.
And what forced me out of my skin was that no longer being acceptable to me. And I don't know, the most growth I've ever had personally was the most painful times in my life, when I felt the most exposed. So if you can take that, and if we can remind people of that, every once in a while, I get the opportunity to be a public speaker and to talk to young people. I say young people that like I'm old. I'm not, but when to students and things like that, and I can remind people that, look, get out of your own way, find something that's uncomfortable but still excites you, and then don't be afraid to fall on your butt. Those types of things, that's where we grow the most. Again, but you're right. We have this cushy mentality and these bubble wrapped existences that are just fine. We are cloaked in privilege in our society, down to there's the longest lifespan of humanity, period, in the life that we're living right now. We can coast, sure we can. Where's the inspiration in that? Where's the fulfillment in coasting? The alternative is hard. It's not easy to get out of your comfort zone. It's not easy to face your demons. It's not easy to embrace growth through failure, but that's the only way we're going to get there, right?
Yeah,
100%.
And with that passion too, like you talked about, starting out a little bit later in life, and I wanted to dive into this and consume everything. Having that passion, with the ability to, take risks and know you're going to fail and grow from that. I think that's a big thing. When you find your passion and, like you said, you want to reach out and spread your knowledge, and having that passion, that drives it right there too.
Well, it does. And even if it's not your lifelong passion, nobody has to have one thing, but find a thing. Find something that excites you just a little bit and go towards it. People have this mistaken idea that once you commit to something, to a skilled trade, to a job, to being an accountant, to being a doctor, that you're stuck with that for life. You are not stuck with that label for life. My whole story, when I get to tell it, is that I've had this amazing meandering career that has led me to being the OG TV guy that I could come, and you guys actually sought me out to talk to me on your podcast. And in the background here, I've got one of the training courses that is going to teach people how to transition from a hobby to a small business. Those are the types of things that I do now. Guess where it comes from? It comes from me being a technician.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm in the body shop, and I've got to be a really good body shop guy, does that mean that that's all I'm ever good for? Heck no.
No.
Does that mean that's all I'm ever going to learn? No.
Yeah, it's not your identity. It's part of your identity, but not your whole identity, right?
Absolutely. My father-in-law taught me a long time ago, there's a difference between a job and a career.
Yep.
A job is what you're doing in the moment to take care of yourself and your family. A career is what you do with that job and how you continually improve yourself over a lifetime.
Is there one or two particular people in your life, and you kind of touched on it a bit, but that inspired you to be where you're at today? Is there anyone you've met or haven't met, or anyone in your life that has really just like this, I want to be like this person, or their story has inspired you to get to where you're at today?
I've had so many unbelievable mentors. Early on, my biggest mentors were the incredibly strong women that I grew up around. my Aunt Leslie and my mom and my grandmother, Avis Jensen, who raised, 7 children after her husband passed away by teaching piano lessons. And, those people in my life showed me power, and they showed me strength, and the power of work. One of my favorite quotes is, and the thing that I'll remember until I'm gone. And my dad told me, he said, listen, if you want to be a body guy, you're probably not going to get rich by being a body guy, but you will never, ever be without a well-paying job.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. That's what I needed to hear at the time. So that was a huge moment for me. So my dad has contributed huge to me. My wife's father, Howard L. Copeland. I was in my 30s when I started having deep conversations with him about career. And, he taught me the difference between job and career. He taught me through example what hard work does. He was a 22-year Navy veteran and retired from the Navy, and was an electronics instructor at the end of his tenure in his career. He retired with the highest enlisted rank that you could have. He was a Master Chief.
Wow.
And from there transitioned with the Magnavox Corporation, transitioning facsimile technology, which was top secret in World War II, over to private sector use and marketing.
Oh, wow.
From Magnavox, he retired from that company. He went with a company called Ricoh. He used to be the top of the game in business machines, was a Southeast District rep for Ricoh Incorporated, based out of Atlanta, and retired from that company. So the work thing was never something he tried to get away from and do his work so he could retire. Work was his life. And it wasn't like he was a slave to it. He taught me that work could coincide with family and could coincide with the rest of the goals of one's life, but that the value in work was the work itself. So those things, I'll be forever grateful to Howard L. for teaching me that. And it's not like he sat me down and said, here's what to do with your life. It was by example. It was through conversations. And those are the biggest and most important mentors of our life, is the people that show us through example. So if you want to talk about famous guy mentors, Chip Foose, unbelievable cat. One of the times I met Chip, he was on the set of the PowerBlock shows, and we all know who Chip Foose is. And, he was actually a car designer, went through GM Design College and worked for GM for a short period of time. But he's a hero of mine, man, because of the things that he's achieved, but mostly because of the fact that he stayed so humble and so grounded through the whole tenure. So he's on the set of PowerBlock. He's endorsed by, I think it was MagnaFlow at the time. So he's doing MagnaFlow commercials, and he's doing interstitials with the host, which was Courtney Henson at the time. And he's got time between takes and stuff like that. So he's bouncing around the studios. So RTM was a 65,000 square foot facility with 5 dedicated TV studios. It was a TV factory. So we got a down day on trucks, and me and Ryan are there, and Chip comes in. He says, hey guys, what's going on? So I was like, it's Chip Foose. It's the first time I got to meet him. It was really cool. So he sat there and talked for a little while. He said, man, I'm bored. I'm fidgety. What are we doing? And I misunderstood that. I said, well, this is the one that we're doing 2 episodes on, and this and that, where we're in 4th episode of this. This is the long-term bill, blah, blah, blah. He said, okay, what do you want me to do? I couldn't believe that he was offering to help. He went and changed his clothes and helped us do body work on a car in a fiberglass truck.
Oh, wow.
That was Chip. And he was sincere and genuine in saying, I'm bored. I need something to do with my hands. I want to get out of my head. And what turned out to be one of the greatest conversations I've ever had with anybody about the industry, about the high-end custom world, about television, and just about staying grounded was with him that day. And that showed me that that's the guy that I want to be. That's who I want to aspire to. So Chip Foose has been a metaphor and a hero to me for as long as I can remember. So I could go on and on with different famous people I've met. I don't want to do that. But I will say this: in the music industry and in the television industry, the people that I've wanted to emulate the most are the people that have been the kindest, the most willing to give back, and the most genuinely humble people that I've come across. So that's that's really the honest truth. Ultimately, it comes down if you're, one guy told me this in the music industry, if you can play. Yeah, you look okay, whatever, you look the part. Ultimately, it comes down to, are you a good hang? Yeah. Can people tolerate you for a 10-month tour?
Oh, of course.
That's the big question.
Can they tolerate you?
Yeah.
Keyword tolerate. Right?
Trust me, man. I've been on the road in a fart tube with 5 grown men trying to babysit each other. It comes down to tolerating.
That's so cool. Like even on that, what's that movie, The Internship, that Google movie with Vince Vaughn. Like they talk about, okay, we have these. There's a scene where they're debating, I think, between a couple hires. They're like, well, which one would you like to have a beer with? I forget what the context was, but it pretty much, which one of these people, they're both extremely qualified, more so than we need probably.
Yeah.
But who would you be okay with sitting around and having a coffee or having
Tolerating.
Tolerating.
Yeah.
Hey? We tolerate each other. Yeah.
Well, you guys, I'm sure, are real good friends. It comes across. You guys got great energy together. But it comes down to you just have to wrap yourself around everybody, other people's eccentricities sometimes, and just accept that. And that's just a part of being a mature human, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the importance of mentorships and role models, I think, is very influential here, as you can tell from your story.
Yeah.
Right, and some people maybe don't have that or don't notice it at the time, and it can be unfortunate. But if you can get the right mentors and people to lead by example, what you had said with Chip Foose, like getting in there, getting dirty. Hey, I've got some time off. What do you need a hand with? And not just sitting down and telling you how to do something, but kind of giving you some examples and then letting you grow and build your own experience from those.
Right. And with that person in particular, not looking down at somebody at the ground floor of their career while he's up at the top floor.
Yeah.
And to see somebody with the proper eyes, it's really important.
And we all start at the bottom.
Yeah.
We all start at the bottom. Well, we start at the beginning. Maybe it's not the bottom, but we start at the beginning of something, and we have to be comfortable with being there and understand what it takes to know that you're holding the north end of a southbound broom.
Yeah.
I've trained many helpers in my tenure in collision. I've trained dozens of people in just the car show seminars that I've put on. I do a professional training program for the government here, and I've trained countless people through my private training programs and consultations that I do. And people have to understand how to learn. They have to understand how to start from the beginning and be humble enough to say, maybe a kid comes in, maybe he's been doing body work for 6 years. Maybe he's pretty good at it. Maybe he can paint a car in his driveway. But if he has no idea what paint technology is, he has no idea really what happens on a chemistry level or a microscopic level with substrate on up through your top coats and then to surface correction tech. If he doesn't know the technical aspects of it and he's pretty good by proxy, he has to be humble enough to understand that he's going to get stripped down to starting by learning how to use the north end of a southbound broom. You got to start there. You have to be willing to realize what you don't know.
Yeah. Yes. And be okay with that, right? Admit it. I remember starting in auto parts. There is about 1,000 years worth of experience behind an auto parts counter, right? When you get to those, those auto parts stores that are part of the fabric of that community, and they've been there. There are guys that I've worked with who are in their 60s, late 60s. That was their first job, right? And the amount of knowledge and experience they have. And so I remember I came into, and this isn't like patting myself on the back, but it's some firsthand experience for what you said. Starting, and myself and this other guy started around the same time. And I've always connected with like older people or people older than me better than maybe my peers or people younger than me. I just kind of I've grown up around adults, like I knew how to manage that. And so I realized real quick that these guys have some incredible knowledge, and I didn't want to come in there thinking that I knew some stuff, like I've changed oil, the basics, but I came in there kind of open to learning. And this other guy came in at the same time, and he dabbled as well, but he came in kind of with a chip or maybe with a little more ego. And as soon as those old guys had a sniff of that, they disengaged from this kid. Yeah. Dude, if you want to learn, like the first thing the thing that got me in the door though with them is there's always some hazing, right? And the one time the old guy goes, he just wanted to test out my chops, I guess. He goes, okay, young guys, and this old guy named Daryl, I'll never forget him. He's this old rancher guy, can hardly walk, bold-legged from riding horses all his life. And he goes, why don't you look me up a water pump for a 57 Beetle? And I said, nice try. And he goes, okay, maybe this kid knows something. And then, but I never got cocky, and I really wanted to learn. And then this other kid, it was so funny. I'll never forget this. The same guy, he goes, you want to see a trailer? And he's like, follow me, I'll show you. So he starts, and he starts walking up and down every aisle of the parts of the parts store. And then he goes outside, and he goes all around the parking lot and comes around in, and then, you know, like the hazing that the old guys used to do, right?
Yeah.
And when this kid figured it out, he was so mad. But it was just like, but he knew, and this was Daryl's way of humbling this kid and bringing, you know, listen, kid, like, you don't know everything. It's okay. And I'm just thankful that I had the experiences in my life to be able to acknowledge and see the wisdom that all these guys had these are legends, you know?
Yeah. So Lance, you touched on something that I want to elaborate on just a little bit. You said you've always, and I've shared this with you, but you've been comfortable around adults and around people that had a higher level of skill with you. And that's one of the droplets of wisdom that has been imparted on me that I really take to heart. You always want to surround yourself with people that are better than you at your skill or more mature than you, and have that are on a higher level than you. In that environment, you're going to grow. You might get hazed, you might get made fun of, you might be uncomfortable, but you're going to grow in that environment. And the other thing that you touched on is so you were receptive to that. You know that a 57 Beetle is an air-cooled engine. So you happen to know that. But some people listening might not.
Yeah.
Now they do.
Now they do.
Thank you
I guess I should have elaborated.
I just learned something today.
Yeah. Corey's like, what?
What?
Yeah.
They don't have water pumps? Yeah.
The challenge to us, because you guys are both teachers, and by the way, thank you for doing that, for committing to that, for being the stewards of passing on information and the message of that this career can be a noble career and a well-paying career and can lead to other amazing things. So thank you guys for that. But the other question is this: how do we reach that guy that comes in indignant? How do we reach the guy and make the light bulbs go off with him? Because we run into that over and over again. There was the one guy in particular, I remember his face, but I don't remember his name. He came up to me at a car show. I was doing seminars up at Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And this guy, he was a WyoTech graduate, and he walked up to me because we had done some WyoTech stuff. We had WyoTech students on the TV shows, and I knew some of the instructors. He was mad. He was angry at the industry because he did this and he paid all this money and he put his 18 months in and he had 4 degrees when he came out the back end of it, and nobody would hire him for anything other than an entry-level position with entry-level pay.
Yeah.
And so he missed the point that from the outside in, you have to prove yourself. You have to prove that you have not only the capacity to learn, but also an idea of entry-level skills and of the fact that you don't know everything. My first job in an auto body shop was sweeping the floor, and at a very low rate of pay. And once I showed those people that I knew how to sweep the floor expertly, then I moved on to sanding. I learned how to block sand by craftsmen. From block sanding, I learned how to do priming techniques. Then I learned how to do polishing, cut and rub, surface correction. But I had to prove that I knew how to operate that broom. So here's our challenge as teachers, and anybody else listening, even the kid that comes in indignant. How do we get past that threshold of fear? Because that's really what it is. That's why we get pissed off. That's why we get angry at somebody when we confront them on the fact that they don't know as much as they hoped or thought that they knew. It's an insecurity threshold that we have to get past.
Big time.
So our challenge as teachers and instructors is to meet that where it is and figure out a way to pierce that veil and to get through that and get past that, and then start empowering and educating. So, that's an open-ended question, but it's something that we all got to think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, that's the thing. Like, not every kid's going to be open, and so, there's different kids or different people have different
Everybody
walks of
has a
life.
different learning speed and a different way that they process
Style.
information.
And I think too, like having been at that school, I think there could be, and maybe there is now, this was back in 2005. But when I was at Tech, there was a lot of, they had the car show, that the overhauling car that they did. And they had, there's a lot of like collaborations with quote famous people, right, in the industry. Right. It was a big hyped place, right? I found out about it watching Spike TV, watching your shows, right? The commercials. I was like, I want to go there. So I was that kid too when there was some ego, I'll be honest. I'm a WyoTech grad. So then I remember, I'll never forget, I had this 3-panel over the phone interview with Jaguar.
Mm-hmm.
I called from Laramie, and this was up in Edmonton. And so we had this interview. I got the position. I went up on our like break between classes to Edmonton, and I walk around, and they're like, well, we'll be able to start you at a first-year apprentice. And I was like, what? I got my backup, right? My ego was like, how dare you? Do you not know that I'm graduating from WyoTech? Look at me. And the whole the tagline or the monologue that I've practiced in my head over and over is, well, in the 6 months, you get the equivalent to a 4-year apprenticeship. You do all the schooling and you get 50-50, like the whole thing, the whole pitch. Right. And I was like, well, I can't do this. And it was very humbling for me. And it was very important that I experienced that. Yeah. Right. Because, no, I'm not, you got to work. I don't care how, like, you get a degree, you get designation behind your name, but still, are you tolerable? Can you push a broom? You know,
work ethic.
How's your work ethic?
Right.
What do you actually know? Instead of what does this mark say that it's a whole, there's two different, they're quite disconnected. And it was very humbling for me. And I learned that real fast.
Yeah. So you guys know who Mike Rowe is?
Yes.
Mike Rowe is a hero of mine. And on every podcast I'm on, I put it out to the universe that I want to meet Mike Rowe someday because I'm man crushing on Mike Rowe and he's a hero of mine. And but Mike Rowe the Mike Rowe Foundation has work ethics training that they're doing now.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing? Work ethics.
And it's sad that needs to happen, first of all.
Yeah. Well, it's not sad. It's just something we need to know about.
Yeah.
Because work ethic is something that we learn the hard way. I remember my first job in a construction crew when I was at summers between high school years, and work ethic. I didn't want to work hard. I just wanted the paycheck on Friday,
for sure.
But you figure out real quick that if you're going to keep that job, you're going to bust your butt.
Yeah.
And that type of thing. If we could have like an understanding going into it, if there could be a program like Mike Rowe's program that everybody has to have, it's compulsory. That you can have that, at least that idea, that companion education to go along with your trades education, so that you can go into the trades a little more humble and realize that everybody starts out at a fundamental level. It's the ones that accelerate quickly that understand how to learn and how to be taught, and they understand that they don't know every damn thing.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of, we could talk about this all day.
Yes.
But speaking of knowing how to learn, how to be taught, the education piece. Let's get into Paintucation.
Cool.
Let's talk about the next phase, because like you said, it's been around for quite a while, and the university that you're starting. And let's get into it. Let's unpack it and let's promote it. Let's celebrate it.
Absolutely. Paintucation instructional products have been around for 22 years, 23 in this year. I'm amazed at that. And it taught me that there is always a continually renewing audience of people that want to learn and that want to get better at what they do. So my first delivery mechanisms were VHS tapes. That transitioned to DVD. Nobody has DVDs anymore, so we have to go digital. I've got streaming versions of my Paintucation Classic instructional products, as well as a lot of other stuff that you can get on my paintucation.com website. And there's also a whole lot of free videos on my YouTube channel. It's just the Paintucation YouTube channel, and I'm doing daily updates. I did a little how-to this morning, or just a kind of a about to kind of thing on patina painting this morning. But Paintucation University came out of my angsting about how am I going to deliver what I think is valid training information to this next group of enthusiasts and students that don't have a DVD player. Yeah. Part of it's self-preservation, but part of it is trying to figure out how we can pass on this trade to the next generation and the next stewards of our amazing industry. So, and the answer to that is with digital training. Nothing can take the place of an in-person trade school class. I know that. I can't come to everybody's computer, can't come through the screen and teach you how to block sand or spray coaching with paint technique over the shoulder like I can in an in-person learning environment. However, we can deliver fundamentals. That's been the core of my training process from word one. Correct and proper understanding of fundamentals leads to expertise when it comes down to the minutia of every discipline. So Paintucation University was born of that. When I became an actual trade school instructor with my private training courses, I transitioned from having videos that teach people in the hobby sector how to get a better outcome and solve problems to literally having a 5 and a 10-day in-person training class that teaches from the first module is what is paint. And the last modules are very sophisticated application exercises. So I had to relearn, I had to actually learn how to be a teacher and a trade school teacher. And my wife is a teacher. She's got her K through 6 certification. She helped me understand about how to plan out modules. You guys have gone through all of this.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I had to learn that. And it made me a better instructor. It made me a better teacher. And so I'm proud of that. And I can proudly say that the people that come through my in-person classes leave with a lot of tools, not just physical tools and spray guns, but they leave with a lot of tools and the ability to complete their practice exercises. And they become better technicians in a very short amount of time. So to translate that into a digital platform, how do I do that? So that's been the task that I've put on myself for the last couple of years. We launched Paintucation 101, our digital training university, with the Lightspeed VT software, which is an interactive training software that I think is fantastic. It's very stable. It's been around for about 20 years, and there's the interactive capabilities, which is a burgeoning trend in digital video production. But it also, they have in place test out modules at the end of every training course, and it's I don't know, it was a really great platform for me to put my courses on. We did a soft launch in 21 of Paintucation 101. It's very well received, and I'm with that concept proven. Now I'm branching out into not only courses for the hobbyist side of it, which has been my wheelhouse, teaching people how to get a better result when they've had some failures. That's always been kind of my touchstone and what I'm really good at, but also to entry-level service technicians, to people that are entering the industry from the professional side. So I'm going to diversify that way. I'm going to have painters helpers training programs, a porter's program, a transition from helper to painter, those types of things that can be a pre-course to a trade school or a pre-course to an employment situation, to where somebody is going to come in with a foundation of knowledge that they would not have otherwise else had. So those are the things that I'm very passionate about, armed with the new education on being an educator and my confidence as a trade school type instructor. Now I feel like I'm insanely qualified to be able to offer those programs. And I'm really, really stoked and excited about it. So I'm in the process of writing. I've got 5 courses on the go. 3 of them are finished, penned out. We've started pre-production and even some video production on those courses. And in 2022, when we do a hard launch in the fall, and I will keep you guys in the loop, there's going to be at least 6 platform programs. One of them on how to transition from a hobby to a profitable small business. Yeah. All the things that I've learned as an estimator, losing my butt in my own restoration shop.
That's brilliant.
How to properly value my time, how to properly qualify a customer, impressions, what makes people run away screaming from your shop before you even talk to them. So all those lessons that I learned the hard way, there's going to be a trainee course on that. And it's not like the micro work ethics program, but it's how to properly set yourself up and the important questions that you need to ask before you hang your shingle out and say, I want to be a small business.
Of course.
So that's one of the most important courses that I think I can put out there. So I'm so excited about Paintucation University. And I wish I could say, here, go to the URL right now. You can with Paintucation 101. The course is up and it's available. There's all kinds of, it's not a free course. It's not, I don't have 100,000 YouTube followers. I don't. I have some people that follow me, but my courses are not free courses. I've got a lot of free information, but the training course is something that you pay for. So those types of things, we have different options. You can do PayPal financing to make them more affordable at the time. There's a 3 easy payments option, stuff like that. I don't want to bog down on money, but there's 2 reasons that I charge for the courses. I charge for the courses because they're ridiculously expensive to produce, and the break-even point takes a long time. It's a longer time than most people realize. But also, if you're going to sit there in front of a free video and pay it half of your attention, you're going to get half of the value out of that free video that you never paid for in the first place. If you commit to me for, it's $400 for the Paintucation 101 course. If you commit to me for that financial amount, by gosh, you're going to pay attention. Yeah. Because that's your hard-earned money. Somebody, whether it's you or somebody else, has paid that money. So now I've got your focused attention. And then at the end of it, if you want the Paintucation certification, or you want to go the extra mile and get the Exalta and ICAR points, then that to me, it's a pre-qualifier. So people that are willing to put your money where your mouth is, now I've got a serious student. So that's the other reason that my courses aren't free. And I hope that doesn't sound wrong coming out of my mouth, but that's really the truth.
That does not sound wrong. The whole thing sounds brilliant to me, especially like you said, you're investing your hard-earned money into something. You're going to pay attention to it. But also, I want to touch on just how you were talking about all of the like estimating and all these pieces that you have to learn like in the trenches. You don't necessarily learn that, all those little nuanced things about the business in trade school or in tech school, right? No, it's all technique and getting a job. But okay, so you want to transit. I feel like you're touching on a niche there that no one's really done.
Well, there's a company called Collision Hub that does really great body shop estimate training. They're an online school as well. We're going to work together once I get my hands-on programs, and I'm very excited to partner with them in the near future here. But okay, I'm going to tell a story. One of the things that I learned the hard way, and you guys will be able to relate to this, and this is going to be in my course. So people that are listening, here's a gimme, here's a freebie. So, and this is just a literal example of one of the things that I had to fight through while I was running somebody else's business. I was the manager of a shop, and I was doing estimates. So the State Farm guy kicks back it was about 6 labor hours that I had asked for I'll never forget the car. It was a Lincoln Town car, late model, newer luxury car, and we're putting a quarter panel on it. And I had asked for R&I on the glass and the interior panels. Now, R&I, if you don't understand, it stands for remove and reinstall. So there's a labor charge to that. When I'm putting a quarter panel in, if I do it properly, I take the back glass out, I take the interior out of it, I do my thermal protection on all the other things. So when the guy's welding it in, he's not going to create damage. There's a whole lot of labor that goes into protecting the other undamaged components of that vehicle. So the adjuster kicked it back and he said, nope, I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying for R&I glass or interior. And I said, well, no, that's what has to happen. And so it came down to, he actually did a spot check at our shop. And, because we have to do the repair correctly to retain our integrity. There's also things that if you charge for something and you don't do it, guess what that is? It's called fraud. And when they send you that check through the federal mail system, that's a federal offense now. So we have to be honest in a body shop, or we should be honest in a body shop. There's some that aren't, I know this, but so it came down to a shouting match between me and this claims adjuster. And I finally cornered him. I closed the door and I said, why in the H are you so hard on me with this? Why are you busting my butt for a couple of hours of labor time when you know that we've done the work, we're going to do it properly, and this is what needs to be done? And he said, Kevin, my job is this. I dole out money from our company that for every hour of labor, we're going to pay you for that hour of labor, but I'm not going to pay you for anything that you don't do. And look at it this way. With this particular insurance company, there was, I think he said it was 15,000 claims every day that were settled. So 15,000 times 2 hours of labor. Do that math. Not got a calculator. I'm going to do that math. So that's 30,000 hours times maybe the prevailing rate was $45 an hour. That's $1.35 million.
Yeah, adds up.
That if that adjuster rolls over and doesn't fight for those hours, they'll pay for what you bill them for. They'll pay for what's right, but they're not going to pay you for anything that you're not smart enough to bill for, or that you're not doing properly. So he said, my job for this company is to keep that $1.35 million in our bank account to pay the next claim, and to keep our company profitable and solvent. My job is not to satisfy your insurance claim. It's not to make your customer happy. That's your job. Mm-hmm. And so when the light bulb went off on that, it taught me this. It taught me how to fight for what was right. It taught me how to fight for my technicians, and it taught me how to properly bill and justify an insurance claim. And that's something that I've been to estimating school and all that kind of stuff. ASC, ICAR, blah, blah, blah. You can learn it all on paper, but unless you get a hard-nosed adjuster in your face shouting at you, explaining to you the real hard rubber meets the road facts, those are the things that I want to be able to pass on from my experience as a collision repair technician and in the restoration industry to possible students coming up, so that they can have an understanding of that going in,
Of course.
That business mindset too, right? You can be good at the skills in your trade and have these certain skill sets. Then you can go from, say, your hobbyist to small business owner trade courses or training courses. That's a huge jump, because now you're dealing with, right, there's so many different branches off of that business now, that it's not just, okay, I'm here to do my work, I'm going to do the block sanding, right, get into primer, all this other stuff. Now that's a whole new learning curve on top of the skills that you already have.
Yeah. And how many technicians or how many students have you run into that said, oh, I don't want to be the painter, I don't want to be the metal guy, I want to own the shop, I want to make all the money. Well, that's a fallacy right there. When you're spending somebody else's money, when you grab that extra roll of masking tape because you can't remember where the last roll went at $10 a roll, that times a year's worth of work, that's a lot of masking tape. That's what that shop owner faces that the technicians don't ever face. So let's educate the technicians from the jump that those types of things are a good, mindful best practice that they can get into. And if they're educated on that, what's it going to take? It's going to take 3 months in at an apprentice level job before you start showing people through exercises like that you're a qualified and a good risk to become a lifelong technician. That's going to get you a raise, buddy. If you're saving the shop money, so let's teach those things, right?
And if you get a job, and this is a metaphor that it's kind of traveled with me just from a teaching standpoint. When you get a job, they're investing in they're investing millions of dollars in you if they keep you for a long time.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
Over the course of your career, and they need to know that that's going to be a worthwhile investment. And it's not just, it's not just about the cash that day. From a business owner standpoint, it's worth millions. And I remember learning how to mask the first time. I was young. I was like, why? What's the point? Like, I'm masking. If I screw it up, I'll just tear off another piece of paper or whatever. It's like, well, no, like that costs money. And
Yeah.
then when I started selling like masking paper and all the Norton stuff and even the plastic, and like that stuff's expensive. And when I started selling it, I was like, oh, I get it now. Like that's why he was adamant about me not wasting any of this stuff, because like even a roll of 2-inch, that's expensive.
Yeah, for sure. So to learn how to mask properly once and do it expertly the first time, that's huge. Because I know you guys have run into this too. What happens when overspray leaches underneath? You don't have a full downdraft booth. If overspray leaches underneath your plastic, if you haven't pinned it down correctly on the rockers, and now you got overspray damage, that now the detail guy, or it comes back into the paint shop because it feels like a sandy road when you run your hand across it. Those types of things, you know, that's the fun part of masking, is when it goes horribly wrong.
All of a sudden the steering wheel has this like dusting of white on it, and you're like, what?
Oh my gosh, yeah, for sure.
So we kind of touched on your experiences kind of getting into this, and your paint education with the training. If we flip it around a bit now, advice for somebody getting into this area, what advice do you have for somebody that would want to get into Autobody?
So people think that the automotive repair industry is dying. The aftermarket might be going through changes. The high performance industries might be going through changes. Certainly there's changes as the world turns from internal combustion to different forms of propulsion. However, in this country, we are never not going to be rural, especially up in Canada. We are never going to be without personal transportation. So I'll say to anybody that ever has a thought of coming into this industry, if they're worried about maybe I don't have a job in 15 years, no. You are always going to have a valid career. If you're willing to roll with the changes, which they all happen. I can't tell you how many different changes in paint technology I've run across in my tenure. The panel bonding, aluminum repairs, all these types of things that are industry standards now. You know, it's been a revolving door, and it turns on its ear about every 6 years, right? Yeah. So what I would tell to people coming into this industry is that go into it screaming, go running towards it, embrace the opportunity, because we will always have a career in automotive repair, in personal transportation repair. So it is a gold mine waiting to happen. And if you work your way up to become a skilled technician, there's no stopping. I know a guy that sprays paint in a Cadillac dealership in Nashville. He's got 2 helpers, and he makes close to $200,000 a year. Pay scale might be different in Canada, but down here in the States, that's my only reference point. That's not every shop. Yeah. On average, you're 60 to 90K, something like that. That's a good living, pal. That's above the average. You know, that is it's you have the opportunity coming into this industry to write your own career path. You can dictate whatever you want to go. You have to come in humble. You have to come in with a good work ethic, and with the idea that you have to work hard to get your skills up and to prove yourself. But man, I'm so excited to sit down and square somebody off of the shoulders and say, hey, man, this is just the beginning. If you want to stay in the trade, it's a valid trade. It's a noble trade. It's a trade that everybody needs you to be in. Mm-hmm. But if you want to springboard off of that, there's no telling what you can do. Yeah, custom crafting, custom world, the tour bus paint jobs, whatever, television, media careers, things like that. It all comes from a foundation. So if you can come into this industry humble, hardworking, with your eyes open, the career that you couldn't have possibly dreamt up is at your fingertips. So that's what I want to say to people. A warning going in: be proactive, be safe. We're dealing with hazardous chemicals that are caustic and toxic in nature. Don't be an idiot. Be smart. Everybody's smart. Everybody on a one-to-one level is intelligent. We can have an intelligent conversation with people on a one-to-one level, but in large groups, people become one big dumb animal. So I mean, that's the truth. We get a group mentality. So don't have that. Have that individual focus on safety and attention as you're coming into this industry. We've all seen this stuff on TV, and I know these guys that do it, that are spraying in the booth without fresh air. They're in flip-flops and shorts and a t-shirt, and they're spraying, polyisocyanate loaded urethane clear coats. And they know they're doing wrong. They know they're sending the wrong example, but they're teaching people inadvertently that that's how it's done because they're on TV and they're professional. That is not how it's done. That's not how it should be done. It's not everybody. There's a few shows out there that do this, and it wipes me out when they don't do it right. But for the most part, you have to assume that people will default to the message that you're putting out, whether it's subliminal or whether it's literal. And like I said, it makes me cringe when I see these mass media productions teaching absolutely the opposite thing of what is the correct procedure to do. My saying is live to spray another day. And not that you're going to drop dead if you fall into a contaminated environment or walk into overspray. Not that one time. But if you multiply that over 20 years of a career, that exposure, Lance, you've been a victim of that, of an allergen that caused you to have to do a career shift. I've known dozens of guys in my tenure that have maybe not been as diligent with their PPE and stuff like that. And I don't mean to be Captain Safety, and I don't mean to be, waving the flag of be overcautious or be careful. But if you want to do this career, if you want a long term in it with opportunity of growth, you got to understand what it is you're working with, right? We got to be safe about this stuff.
And I think too, some of the old school mentality, like I remember growing up and working in some shops here and there and seeing guys wash their hands in the Varsol tank and, those types of things. And then when I became a sales rep, I remember went to this trade show and met with the rep for SAS gloves. And he's like, 15 seconds is from when you wash your hands in that Varsol tank. In 15 seconds, you can trace that in your urine. And and he's like, think about that. That's moving through your kidneys. That's moving through your liver, all that stuff. And I was like, okay, like that was a
aha moment.
That was a aha moment because unless you've never been taught that, if you get taught by these legends or whatever, these old school guys that are like, just wash it off there.
Yeah,
and I could
see
what
what
you're saying.
And not to disparage the industry for not having taught young technicians that. I remember seeing a training video from the GM assembly lines. It was technicians spraying Corvettes on the first C1 Corvette in lab coats and glasses. That was their only PPE, and they're spraying lacquer paints. We know now that lacquer paint had lead in it. I mean, so they didn't know the long-term effects of that exposure. So it's not the fault of technology and training 25 years ago, but we know better now and we can teach better now.
Yeah. So on top of being humble, hungry, diving into that auto repair, what some technical skill sets, if they were wanting to get in this area, that they should develop?
So there's hand skills. There's literally tools on panels. Those types of skills, that's important. That happens with Malcolm Gladwell's theory of 10,000 hours. I can teach somebody to block sand in 10 minutes, but it's going to take him a year's worth of blocking out panels to really understand how to do cross-panel transitions and things like that. Those are one thing. That's boots on the ground, hand skills. And that is muscle memory and repetition. Yes, there's some theory involved. We have to understand that we're moving materials around, but the mental part of it, and this took me a long time to do, to resign to the zen of repetition. An interview with Glenn Frey. Glenn Frey was the lead singer and the drummer for the Eagles. The Eagles are one of the most successful pop rock bands in the history of music. And this interview with Glenn Frey, that the interviewer asked him, "Do you ever get tired of playing Hotel California?" And he said, no. And he said it in this complete deadpan method. He said, "No, I have an extremely high tolerance for repetition. Besides, Hotel California has bought my house in California." But that first part of that phrase, you have to resign to the zen of the procedure. If you say, I give myself 10 days to prime and block out this car, and it takes 15, is that a failure? No. Ultimately, the subject is going to teach the technician how long it takes. If you follow procedure down to the finished conclusion, then it's going to have its own agenda. So when I say resign to the zen of it, it's like when we're polishing panels, there's so many different things that that determine what it takes to finally get all the halos and holograms out of a finely polished piece of fresh paint. How long? The answer to how long is it going to take is yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so you have to resign to the process. So anybody coming in that thinks, you know, if you're paid flat rate, sometimes it's salaries, it's a transition from hourly to salary to flat rate. A lot of shops are still flat rate because there's an incentive to work expertly and fast, which cycle time is huge in collision. So flat rate is where I was always paid. It's where I made my best money in collision. But if you try and cheat procedure in order to get more time and get more money, that's the wrong focus. It's the wrong goal. Don't be focused on the money. Be focused on being an expert. So circle back to the Zen part of it. Is if you can wrap your head around the fact that it's going to take as long as it's going to take, as long as you reach that conclusion at the attended goal, the finished perfection, then the money will follow after that. So I guess in a nutshell, don't be focused on dollars. Be focused on being the best technician that you can be, and really wrap yourself around the procedures rather than the outcome. And the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, that is such a good point. Repetition. I did some contracting work as I was going through university for hotels and replacing doors and renovating little kitchenettes. And at the time, I hated it because we had 30 units. We need to get them done. You start on the first one or first two and you're like, okay, like, this sucks, whatever. But then by the 20th, 25th, you're like, you become so more efficient, and you almost need to embrace that repetition. And, you know, at some points you can kind of get frustrated and get down, but it leads to the whole process of the project, right? And you gain your skill sets, and you kind of build throughout that process. So that's a great point, because I can relate with that just from that one job. And it's like,
For me personally, having an unrealistic expectation of when I'm going to be done with something leads to disappointment and frustration on my part. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to transfer that energy into the customer's car if it's a custom job that I'm doing. And, you know, if my wife said, what time are you going to be home? And I say, I'll be home at 6 o'clock. And I know that I've got another 4 hours worth of work to do, and it's 3:30. I'm not going to be home at 6 o'clock. So by now, my wife knows that if I say 6 o'clock, it really means 9. But she also knows that I've finally learned to say,
so true,
sweetie, I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to be home. This car is going to teach me when it's done. It's going to let me know when I'm finished with it. So don't wait up for me. Don't make dinner that's going to get cold. I just got to follow this process through. So I've become smart enough and wise enough in my tenure of doing this to be honest with myself and realize that, you know, if I'm pushing the threshold of time, the end result is going to be either frustration for me or an unfinished job that's not as good as it could be.
Yeah.
Back to Chip Foose, one of my heroes. One of the things that I'll never forget him saying, and I teach this and I repeat this over, not to drop names. I hate dropping names. But he said, we're only as good as our customers allow us to be. And so what he meant by that was, if the customer allows you to follow the procedure down to a microscopically perfect level, then everybody's going to be happy. The zen of the moment happens. The customer's got a perfect job, and the technician is rewarded for that because he gets to put his name on that. The result of that is somebody needs a really fat checkbook.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the tool. That's the mechanism. That's not the goal. That happens on an aside. That's something that happens once you commit to perfection, which is unachievable. But if you commit to that end result, the money will always follow, right? If you commit to being the best technician that you can possibly be, everything else will follow up in the rear. You will get there. You will become financially rewarded for that. But focus on the expertise first.
Yeah. So with that being said, then focusing on expertise and, you know, in the zen of repetition, what about tools? Like top 3 starting out tools that you'd recommend for getting into auto repair?
Top 3 starting out tools. There's videos all over the YouTube that show a $25 paint gun getting acceptable results. And that's true. You can get acceptable results with a $25 spray gun. But they don't show the $1,500 compressor that drives that spray gun. Or whatever. I've got a compressor that runs my fresh air systems that it costs $12,000. Yeah. It's a 62 CFM 22 horse screw type that I need for my fresh air delivery because I'm plumbed for 6 people in my booth for training sessions. So it's relative. Do I use that all the time? No, it's down like three quarters of the year. It's on. So spend your money well. When I was in collision, I had the cheapest Snap-on toolbox. It's still back up in my shop. I used Craftsman sockets and Craftsman ratchets. And, I had some Snap-on tools. I had a Dynabrade DA. I had really good tools that showed me that they could make me money. I had a high build primer gun. I had a 2K primer gun. I had a sealer gun. I had a base color gun. I had a solid color base gun. I had a HVLP clear gun and an RP clear gun, depending on the texture that I wanted to create. I had a rack of $6,000 worth of spray guns that each one had an individual specific purpose that I could reach for. That tool was ready for me when I was ready for it. I spent my money wisely, and I spent it on the tools that were going to give back precision, reliability, and repeatability. So the biggest tool investment that you're going to make are the tools that are going to directly influence your efficiency as a technician and the proficiency in which you employ your skill. That's a long-winded answer. Buy the best tools that you can buy, of course, and you don't have to go into $20,000 worth of debt for your first job, being a painter's helper. But once you figure out what it is that you're going to do, invest in quality tools and equipment for that discipline. Yeah, the rest of it, you can get by with Blue Point wrenches instead of Snap-on wrenches if you're not making your living turning wrenches.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's awesome. Yeah.
I equate that to like chef's knives.
Quality over quantity,
right? Like a chef is. You watch all these cooking. We're big Food Network fans here.
Oh my gosh, no, for sure. Chopped and all that stuff.
And my son,
all the Gordon Ramsay
my son's
shows.
like,
I love those shows.
My son's 6. He's like, Dad, can we watch a food competition? But then they walk in with their roll on their arm and they roll out their knives and they have this incredible and those
certain knife for different cuts, like you're saying with your
those
spray
are their
guns.
Tools. Yeah. That's what makes them money.
That's what makes them money. And when they're first starting out, do they need the $5,000 knife set? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they work their way up to that, but they know that that's the tool that the professional uses. Yeah. So yes, you can get a good paint job with a $75 spray gun, but you're going to have precision and reliability with the $500 spray gun that you're not going to have with that tool. Also, the availability of parts. I endorse and I use exclusively SATA spray equipment. I love SATA spray equipment. It's not because they give me guns. I buy my guns. They don't give me anything. I'm a distributor for them, but I pay for everything that I get. They're a solutions company and a high quality spray gun manufacturer. They test every single one of their equipment and they make the commitment to the end user that they've got needle and seat sets on stock, for at least a 5-year period worldwide before they release that gun. So they are going to have the replacement parts for you in a moment's notice. You can probably go to your jobber or your paint rep and say, man, I dropped my spray gun without the cap on it and I bent the dang fluid tip on it and I need another one ASAP. And he's going to be able to have that to you because the manufacturer has it too. That's one of the values that you get with buying high quality equipment. I'm not going to say expensive equipment because that's relative. Yeah. If I'm making 150 grand as a shooter, what's an $800 spray gun? Yeah. That's a tool for me to make 150 grand as a shooter. Yeah. So, it's all relative, and I don't mean to be reckless with money. I noticed I grew up with nothing. I grew up having to save up money to buy a new pair of jeans for the prom. I know what it's like not to have money, and I'm careful with my money, but I also know the value of really good equipment and how it pays me back as a technician.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good advice for our listeners.
Of course.
Now, this question I've kind of been holding off till the end, and I'm kind of excited about. With everything you've done, you've been a part of some really awesome builds. And if you had a dream build that you could start tomorrow, what would that be?
Wow. Okay. So, my stock answer when I want to brush off this question is people say, well, what's your favorite build that you've ever done? And I say the next one. So that's the answer that I give to people.
That's an awesome answer. Yeah.
I've become a student of the process. and it's been a hard-won battle with me because I want the result. I'm it's instant gratification type of a guy, and I want that. That's one of the reasons that I got into paint and body work, because we can see something tangible. When I restore a car, do a paint job or polish it out, man, I've got something there in a relatively short amount of time that I've created with my hands. It's a huge joy moment for me. It's very, very fulfilling. So I want that to happen quickly. So now as I get older and wiser, hopefully I'm a student of the process, and that is one of the things. So I'm transitioning to a journey guy rather than a destination guy. So I'm proud of that, and that it gives me it lets me sleep a lot better at night. That said, projects that I want to do, the holy grail probably would be a 67 GT500 KR 4-speed Shelby. I'll probably never ever have my hands on that car, but way down deep in my core, that was one of the cars, you know, with my brother and my cousins, Glenn Wayne and Alan Pinsky. We used to bench race cars. We grew up in my Uncle Herb's salvage yard, and he had cars from the 20s all the way up into the 60s when I was a kid.
Awesome.
Oh man, I can think about those cars, and that olfactory comes back. I could smell them, and I learned how to we analogized, we communicated through cars.
Yeah.
And we would talk about cars, and it was this and that, and the Shelbys, and that was always the cars that were the stuff of dreams and legends. And I never got a chance to meet I never got a chance to meet Carroll Shelby. I've met some of the people that worked with him, but that would be one of the big ones. There's a couple of the ones that got away. I had a 57 F100 when I was just out of high school. I had no business having that truck. It was a really cool truck, and inline six, 3 on the tree. It was garbage. It barely got me there. But what that truck represents to me is my sweetheart. While I had that truck, you know, it's just really fond memories and a really great moment in my life, and it represents those moments when you're young and you're free and all that kind of stuff, and the freedom that vehicle gave me. I was 17 years old, and you know, her dad helped me put it in primer and stuff like that. So I have all those things so I want to build that truck. I want to build a version of that truck, not because I want to relive that past or I want to go back and get reacquainted with anybody. I've been married to Judy for 32 years now, and she's my partner in crime, and we're so happy, and she's truly my best friend, and the best thing that I've ever done as an adult was to marry her. But so I don't want to do that. It's not that type of nostalgia, but it's that feeling in your gut that first car, which wasn't my first car, but that kind of triggers in me, and I think about it nostalgically, and I want to do it again, but do it right, and have that vehicle. Plus, I think it was a very attractive truck. It was the square body Fords right after the big fat fended ones, single headlight instead of the quad headlight, which I never liked. But that's out of the two. We could go on for days about ones that I wanted to do, but that's one of the ones that I want to build from scratch. Now, I've also got a truck that's going to be my next truck project. I talked about Howard L. Copeland and his influence on me and my love for him. And there was a truck that his dad bought new, the 66 Chevy, long bed, 327, 3 on the tree. I've got it sitting back behind my shop. I'm the only guy that's ever done any paint and body work on it. And he gave it to me when we had the conversation. It was, should I sell that, or do you want that truck, Kevin? And so it's like, oh my God, yes, I want the truck. So I've still got it. He's no longer with us, but the truck is, and that's my next restoration project, is a tribute to him and that vehicle and those important things in my life that I was taught by him inadvertently, that I learned from him, and the ways that I grew. What that truck represents to me, and resurrecting it, putting it back on the road, is going to be reliving all those things. And you know, the alternative to getting older is not getting younger. It's, you know, so I'm so proud that I'm able to move on in years and have this accumulated experience behind me. And to go through that vehicle, it's more than just having a shiny truck that I can drive down to Cars and Coffee. It's about reliving those experiences while I'm in the process, and reminding myself of the journey and this amazing life that I've been able to have, that I've been able to dream up and then execute. That, quite frankly, full circle point, you guys are teachers. I'm a teacher. It's the fantastic, amazing life that I've been able to literally create out of nothing is based completely on the fact that I have a skilled trade. I was a very good technician. Everything else is gravy. Everything else came from those roots. So full circle moment, when I'm able to restore that truck, that's what it's going to remind me of. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to think back on those moments,
Oh, yeah. I don't know what else to say. This has been an incredible hour and a half conversation. We could go on for hours.
Days.
Well, let's do it a second time.
We'll have to have a part two.
Focus, part two. Maybe we can focus a little bit more about classroom and training techniques or something like that. I don't know. That would help me.
Anytime.
That would be great, actually.
The
to learn from you guys.
The door is open anytime. Kevin, thank you so much. And before we let you go, is there anything else you want to promote? Where can people find you on social media? The floor is yours.
People can find me on my personal page. I monitor every day on Facebook. It's Kevin Tetz. I've got a Hands on Cars with Kevin Tetz. That's one of the shows that I'm doing, is Hands on Cars. Hands on Cars with Kevin Tetz. And also Paintucation U. It's a private Facebook group for students and people that want to be trainers with Paintucation University. It's an invite only. It's a private focus group of people that want to teach and learn. So follow me on Facebook. Hit me up. DM me. It doesn't matter. I do tech support with all social media. On Instagram, I'm at Hands on Cars KT. Twitter, I'm at Tetz, PAINTETZ. And my YouTube channel, I'm focusing on growing it a lot. The people that follow, thank you for following. Sign up, subscribe. We're going to be doing really interesting stuff over the next little while. So that's just the Paintucation YouTube channel. And I'm blessed and fortunate enough to still have my foot in television. We're doing, for the Motor Trend Plus app, I'm doing a show called CarCraft TV. I was a freelance writer for CarCraft magazine until it went away. It's one of the longest running magazines. It was started in the 50s, and I was a freelance writer for about 6 years with John McGann as the editor-in-chief. Well, he and I are with a bunch of different co-hosts, but we're co-hosting a couple of seasons of that. It's on the Motor Trend Plus app and also on YouTube. So yeah, between Paintucation YouTube, Paintucation University, Paintucation.com, and all the other social media handles, I'm all over the place. Give me a follow. Tell people that want to learn about skilled trades that we're coming for you. We're going to have some unbelievable training opportunities coming up, as well as lots of good free technical advice and maybe some life advice that goes along with it too. And we're going to share of our experience, and hopefully you guys will be a part of that in the future.
Awesome. I don't
My
know
hands
what
are
to
just
say.
shaking. Thank you for taking the time. For our listeners,
You guys are awesome.
Chatting with us, it's been a blast.
It's been a blast, and thank you so much to our listeners for listening to this. For all the links that Kevin mentioned, they'll be down in the show notes. And please share and subscribe to this show. And thanks so much. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Hoff.
Thanks, Rosie.